Usually wherever I go, I take my camera with me, so it's kind of, you're always on a location scout, because if you see the right location, you want to take a picture. And for the most part, I stage the photographs myself, and I photograph myself, but sometimes if it's too far away, my lovely husband Philippe, who sits there, helps me, or a friend, or a babysitter, or my children sometimes. My youngest son is a really great collaborator. He has like also good suggestions and ideas what makes an interesting picture. And I think for me it's like the play between reality and art history and fiction. So the reality is something that I observe from real life. The art history is a knowledge that I've accumulated, for example, like the history of women, how they're depicted over centuries or so, like in Dutch paintings, or the division between public and private life, that the window always played a big role in the composition, but the women were not part of this public life, only through looking through the window. So. And I think you really can learn a lot if you look through centuries of paintings and what women did in these paintings and where they were placed, which gives you really an idea what the rights of women were at that particular time. And the other one is like, my own kind of concept. I mean, I think we have to make our own decision, like that we need this space to walk away, but then also to come back to home. I mean, home is obviously the most grounding and the most emotional and the most beautiful thing, but we don't want home to be a confined concept either.
Bastienne, was it difficult when you first started using yourself as a subject?
You know what, I never saw it about myself, because for the most part I look away from the camera and I don't really want it to be about me. Although I draw from my personal experiences, I feel more like I'm a zealot in front of the camera, and that's why I'm far away. Or
did it start for practical reasons or not?
Yes, actually it also for practical reasons, because in a way you feel like if you're the subject and the object, you really can control when and how it's going to happen. A lot of times you're dependent on other people and it doesn't work out because they're out of time. And also, it's, with yourself you have the greatest comfort level. You might try out to do certain things that would be harder to ask a model to do, and it would be also a different relationship. But I really see myself as a stand-in for a universal female or woman. On another interesting side note, we were filling out forms to go on a trip somewhere far, far away. And they wanted some information about your work history. And in this country, it's actually Burma, it's not a good thing to say you're a photographer. So I thought, well, I say I'm an artist. But then the person at the travel agency said, that's not so good either, because artists, I mean, what does it, I mean, it could be also open-ended. And I thought, and then we kind of agreed, the most innocent thing was to say homemaker. And I thought it was so interesting. Suddenly, like, if you say homemaker, it's kind of like used a lot of times in a very dismissive way or so here. Like if you say, what do you do? I'm a homemaker. So it's very ambivalent notion in our Western culture. But suddenly it seemed like the most innocent thing. A homemaker can't do anything wrong. So it gives you really the greatest amount of roles you can do.
No, she
the greatest freedom ever, you know.
She said homemaker, no questions asked.
Questions asked. So I can say probably I'm
Artist,
a
way
homemaker.
too many.
I've always been struck by the cover of your book, Home Stills, the photo over there. But as much as I looked at it, it took me a long time to realize that your arms were obviously consciously kind of not showing.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if you could talk about what you were...
I mean, what the intention was with this photograph, I want to portray myself kind of as a tripod in a way. So it's kind of a triangular composition, and you really can be totally grounded with 2 feet to hold your balance, but then it's also kind of a fragile balance because I'm standing in the middle of these stacks of wood.
Is it Vicky Goldberg who wrote the essay? She commented on that posture as being like firmly rooted, but without the real defense. No arms, this armless figure, which
is actually also a metaphor in a way for a lot of women as well.
I was wondering how much time you spend like setting up the scene, and do you give yourself a limit, like, so you can't obsess about everything?
No, I mean, it is very important to do things with patience, and which also means it's trial and error. Sometimes you have an idea and might not work out, and you might go to different places and shoot a lot, and it's just like not there as an image. So you need the overlap of the idea and the actual image. the actual image needs to be strong no matter what. So it's really, when I stage a photo shoot, these actually all done medium format film, not digital. And usually I shoot like 2 medium format films, so I shoot like maybe 20 to 30 frames or so, just to see where I'm going as well.
And how, like for this one, technically?
I set up the tripod, and the tripod goes up to
Uh-huh.
30 seconds or a minute.
So you run downstairs?
Yeah, that's another funny thing, because in a way the picture doesn't tell the whole story. Because it's supposed to look like it's about contemplation and so on. It's more like an
You're
imaginary
breathing kind of
film.
hard there.
It's not fun.
How do you deal with the clothes and not disturb anything with this one?
I mean, the clothes you can walk over. I mean, you wouldn't see the difference if you would switch in the clothes or not.
But the shadows in that too, or, within an hour, the shadows would probably be different.
Yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, another thing, like, I do care a lot about geometrical compositions. I think I always thought with the eye of a painter, because I started earlier as a painter than as a photographer. Also with this picture here, like, it was the whole idea to create like this kind of very stark background between the house and the sky. So it's kind of like the story of the house, the silhouette of the house. But you see like the warmth of the inside of the house emanating through the house. And then I'm kind of like half a silhouette, so half is kind of drenched in black and the other half is kind of just lit by the car lights. I think I'm very much also influenced by films, by Godard movies, Wim Wenders, European films, like with kind of a very clean aesthetic and kind of an existential view.
I'm not familiar with all of your work, but I'm looking at your home stills book, and I'm really curious about the connection between your drawings and the photography.
I mean, in a way, I see it's more project-based, although you might not find the exact reference or so. But there are references. For example, the double page that you're holding up, this is kind of a circle of life.
Blue cycle of a woman's life?
Yeah, so it's all these different women's models or so. So you have a Matisse woman, a Dorothy type woman, a Venus of Milo.
Ah,
But then again, these figures you see also in the silhouettes in my photographs.
yeah, that's
so,
what I'm...
so it's something that's transcending each other. It's kind of cross-pollination a lot of times.